Hey, what's up everybody? Lawler here with another Rocket League video. Going to be talking today about the upcoming North American Major. If you guys are unaware, on Saturday we are going to be having the makeup for the Major for North America. I've already covered OCE in South America, and if you haven't seen those videos, make sure you guys go back and watch those, just in case you want to stay up to date with all things that are going on. But more importantly, North America is going to be happening here in just a bit. And we've got, I think, a little bit more of an argument about who may possibly take it. We've seen a lot of parity in these other regions in North America and Europe. So I'm going to try to give you guys 5 to really keep your eyes on going into the Major. Before I start breaking down the teams and what to look out for, as always, if you guys enjoy the content, make sure you guys give it a thumbs up, as well as hit subscribe, turn on notifications, all that fun stuff, as well as leave any comments if you guys have questions. Now, if you guys are unaware and haven't really been paying attention in the past few weeks, there is essentially only 4 teams who have had a chance of winning, and I'm going to throw in possibly a wild card with that, as well as a nod to a team that I think also has a chance because they've been surging pretty well as of late. The big thing that I keep in mind, though, is that it is a couple week break in between the last time we had an event with the grid week 9 and regionals, as well as when we are going to be having this event on Saturday, as well as the following Saturday after that. So I'm curious to see on if we do get a little bit more of uncertainty with that, but ultimately I think you guys know the teams, but let's break down into the specifics as to why these teams can win. Up first, and the most recent winner, is going to be Team Envy. This team, to me, is the epitome of what you are looking for on defense. At the very beginning, it was Spacestation, but I think Envy has really solidified themselves as a roster that is just very difficult to beat when they have a lead. And I think that says something about a team where Envy does have a lot of close scoring games where it is 1-0 or otherwise, but they will hold on to that lead and make you fight tooth and nail for everything. A lot of that is led with the charge of both Atomic as well as Mist doing a good job of transitioning off of his old team, trying to come to this team and provide offense, as well as be in the face, go for the high flashy and getting the notoriety, and he's done a wonderful job of that. That's then further solidified with Turbo Pulso, the 4-time, the GOAT, whatever you want to call it. If you guys haven't seen the Score Esports video on that, highly recommend going and watching that about Turbo Pulso if you want to educate yourselves. But ultimately, Team Envy is just an absolutely dominant team on both sides of the field nowadays. In the past, it was their defense and a little bit of inconsistency, but it feels like as this team has developed further, which we said was going to happen, they really seem to mesh well. I think there's a lot of people that still put a lot of emphasis on Atomic and how he's performing, but I feel like Atomic has really found his fit with this roster in the sense that the confidence is no longer an issue. He is going to give you a good base level. I think that's the most exciting thing about Envy in the past few weeks. I don't think I've seen Envy really have any one particular player playing poorly. They all give you a really solid performance, and then when they go on to win the whole thing, you can notice, like, yeah, they're playing really well today, better than, you know, their standard level. So I think Envy is going to be that team that a lot of teams are just going to try to avoid altogether if they can, just because no matter what, you're going to have to fight for the victory. So Envy right now, the most recent, I think is a really good nod. It just depends on what level of play they give us. Are they going to be a team that no matter what, you're still fighting hard for and is actually going to end up beating you? I'm extremely curious to see what Envy shows up, but most recently we did see that they could win a major. So again, one you have to put in consideration. Next up is going to be Energy, and I think this one's the obvious pick for a lot of people. Most recently, when we saw them in regionals, they did not look like the solidified Energy that we'd seen in weeks past, where they won a regional and 2 grids and basically dominated everything. This one can be hit and miss for me because I think Energy right now is probably the best team in North America. But it really depends on what Energy we're getting. I've seen times where they look a little bit flat. I've seen times where they look absolutely dominant and no one stands a remote chance against them. That's what makes me excited as a kind of blanket statement for North America, because right now it is coming down to, in the truest sense, who performs on the day. And I think that's exciting. I think you can talk about playstyle matchups and who I think has leads over the others. My expectation is that we're going to probably see the same 3 or 4 teams in the semifinals like we always do. But right now, I think Energy and Envy are both teams that are really, really solidified for myself to be in that semifinal and pushing into the grand final. Energy, to me, is a team that has everything that you could possibly want in a roster. The players just need to show up on that day. Whether it be Squishy, Justin, or Garrett, all 3 of them are absolutely superb. They're dominant performers in their region. That's what makes me excited as a kind of blanket statement for North America, because right now it is coming down to, in the truest sense, who performs on the day. And I think that's exciting. I think you can talk about playstyle matchups and who I think has leads over the others. My expectation is that we're going to probably see the same 3 or 4 teams in the semifinals like we always do. But right now, I think Energy and Envy are both teams that are really, really solidified for myself to be in that semifinal and pushing into the grand final. Energy, to me, is a team that has everything that you could possibly want in a roster. The players just need to show up on that day. Whether it be Squishy, Justin, or Garrett, all 3 of them are absolutely superb. They're dominant performers in their region. And I think now that Energy has really solidified what they want to do with Squishy, there was questions coming in when he was originally moved in. And now that he's not only dominant on defense, but also has the ability to transition out of offense, a lot of solo plays, still paired with bumps and demos, I think it opens up a lot of opportunities. I think the team just needs to play clean and then hope that they can enable Justin or whoever to have that pop-off game. Because they honestly don't need every single player to play out of their minds to get victories. As long as one player is playing exceptional and they can enable that, I think they're fine. After that is going to be Spacestation Gaming. This is what many people consider throughout the entire first fall split as the best team because of their dominant performances early. After the really hot start, teams kind of figured out how to stop them. I do feel they were playing a little bit under their expectation as well with that, and they ended up faltering pretty heavily. Over the last month, they have started to bounce back, which is really good. But we have not seen Space Station in that hot spot or that hot seat in the grand finals in quite a while. I think the benefit of having a couple weeks off is actually beneficial to them, as it is going to kind of allow them to settle in. We also have players in a team house for Space Station Gaming. They're based in Miami for the couple months. Reddles and Arsenal had already moved out there. Chrome is north. I don't know if he's going to be there for the week or not, but for the time being, they do technically have a team house for this event, and I wouldn't be surprised if the entire team is there during that time. I know Space Station is obviously a very talented roster. We all know their capability. They've completely shut down North America in the past. But are they going to be able to get back to that resurgence? And if they are, when are we going to see it? That's kind of the exciting thing about it, is we know Space Station's potential, very solid roster. It's why they're in the conversation, and one you can never take lightly as well. So I think Space Station's biggest asset is their coach in Chrome and the ability to adapt and make changes throughout a series very quickly. I'm curious to see on how that ends up playing out. Another team with a team house, obviously in G2, one that you have to consider just because of the way that they play. The team does not have a regional win, but they have found themselves in the top 4 every single event for regionals, and for the grid, they've won multiple of those. That's kind of the discussion that I have, is G2 is a very talented team, but for some reason they haven't been the best team on the data that it matters most for regionals over the course of whether it be 4 days or however you want to explain it. So G2 is one that I know has the potential to win the whole thing, but a lot of it I think does rely on Chicago. I think Rizzo's going to perform to the utmost of his capabilities. I still think he's one of the most impactful players on the team. JNAPS has always been pretty solidified, but G2 is a team that definitely needs to have a breakout performance for one of their players. I think a lot of it, though, in the time that G2 looks the best is highly reliant on Chicago. I think when Chicago's playing well, G2 looks like an unstoppable team. My concerns are always going to be about the defensive side. I think their offense is absolutely crazy. It's why I enjoy watching them versus Envy, because it's essentially glass cannon versus really good defense. But I don't know what G2 is going to show up. I know Jazzo is probably putting in the work to try to figure out what their game plan is in this off time to get them ready for this event, because it is very important to get those double points, as it can jump you up in the standings. Right now, G2 is in 6th place behind both Kansas City Pioneers and the Peeps. If we were to send these teams to LAN right now, G2 would be going in as the last seed for North America, which is something that doesn't necessarily sit right with me, but I think is credit obviously to the other teams. Right now, I think G2 is a team that definitely has the potential to be the best in North America. We've seen them be in that spot before, but it hasn't been in the events that matter most. Obviously, winning grids back-to-back is a big deal, both over Energy in their wins that they did have, but they need to find a way to do it in the regionals. This is going to be an opportunity for them to really make up those points and then some. So a lot of expectations for G2, but just haven't seen them get the big one yet. Not that they're not capable of it. They're fully capable of winning the whole thing. It's just, are they going to be able to do it against teams that have solidified themselves, in my opinion, as a top 2 or a top 3, like Envy or Energy or Space Station or whoever else? Even though the current standings don't have them there, I do have G2 as probably the 3rd best team in North America. I'm curious if they can push into those higher spots. Now, for the last team that I want to talk about, a little bit of an asterisk on this one. It's going to be Kansas City Pioneers, and before I go into their breakdown and talking about them specifically, I do want to mention the Peeps. The Peeps is actually in the same exact standings for them. They're tied for 4th place at 550 points overall, but the Peeps have not broken into that grand final spot yet. Although very consistent, the Peeps have never made it past the semifinals, unlike Kansas City Pioneers. And I don't want to discredit the Peeps because they are in the same situation. As much as I think the Peeps are good and I think they can play an upset, it's very hard for me to give them a nod over someone like Kansas City Pioneers that has shown they can push forward into a grand final situation or otherwise. So the biggest reason for me for Kansas City Pioneers is they've been on an upward trend since the beginning. If you guys haven't seen the graphs or anything on Reddit, Kansas City Pioneers is the only team that has trended upward the entire course of this split. They've never dipped in performance. They have either performed the same, if not better. So Kansas City Pioneers most recently did play against Envy in that grand finals. It came all the way down to the wire. It was a best of 7 all the way to game 7, you know, a 1-goal difference. It was a very good fight, and honestly, I think Kansas City Pioneers should have won that series. They had a lot of missed opportunities. There were shots that were off target that they should have put away, but is a team that I don't think people should take lightly. This is a scary roster and a very talented team, and the more and more they play together, the more dangerous it's going to be. I think a lot of the focus is actually going to be on Rapid and his involvement. I think Beast Mode is solidified. I think Memory is solidified as players that are going to give you a very solid performance. But Rapid and the way that he finds his involvement, I think, is the difference maker. Kind of these awkward rotations that put him in a place where he shouldn't be, but can make something out of it or create passes off the backboard or whatever he does to keep the opponent guessing. I think that's their kind of catalyst. Their anomaly of why they're so good is not because they do any one particular thing really crazy. It's just they make things awkward for other teams. If you have to give one underdog or kind of one wild card pick, for me, it's going to be Kansas City Pioneers over the Peeps, because not only have they had the better performances and done it, but they also are just difficult to play against. You look at how teams square up against them, and even a team like Envy that I think is built to beat Kansas City Pioneers, their defense still, if the shots were a little bit better, would have succumbed to the victory of Kansas City Pioneers. And a victory there for Kansas City Pioneers would be the difference between them being right now at 550 points and 651, only 50 points behind third place. So again, I think Kansas City Pioneers is solidified in the 4th spot, and it's really hard to argue against. So again, my 5 teams, ones that you really need to pay attention to: Envy, Energy, Space Station, Kansas City Pioneers, and G2. Not particularly in that order. I think all these teams are fully capable of going and making a victory. But we're going to be watching this Saturday. If you guys don't know, twitch.tv/Lawler, link in the description down below. Come join us. We'll be doing watch parties for both South America, North America, and Europe this weekend. I also get the keys to my apartment today, so trying to get some moving stuff done, so a little bit different there. But we'd love to have you guys, and let me know what you guys think. Comments down below, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.